episodes. Sorry that these episodes have been so far apart. I've been moving into a new studio space. So I have so many ideas of what I want to talk about and value that I want to bring to other SMP artists. Today I'm going to be talking about dot patterns. And I'm going to be running through the extremely basic dot patterns that I did when I very first started, right up until dot patterns that I'm trying right now. And then also dot patterns that I'm still trying to achieve and levels that I'm trying to reach too. Because I never ever want to get to a point where I think that I've got it right and that I'm perfect. I just want to keep on continuing to grow. All right, so the first thing with dot patterns is when you start, to start at the back. So you want to start at the back of the head towards the crown because this is where you're going to be warming up. This is the first dots that you're going to be doing, and you're getting a feel for the head. And you don't want those practice dots to be on the front here where everybody can see them. And another thing is to be conscious of time. Now, there is no amount of time that is right. More doesn't mean better and less doesn't mean worse. Me, myself, I can concentrate for about 4 hours for a tattoo before I need a break, I need to smoke or something like that. But that's the 4 hours is the amount of time that my client gets 100% of my concentration. And then anything outside of there, I can feel it starting to wither a little bit. Now this is going to change from person to person. But what you need to take into account is that when you're tattooing, you've got a whole canvas head that you've got to fill. So if you're going to start extremely dense at the back, then realize that's going to take you a lot more time to get to the front. And you don't want your client to have half a head when he's leaving from that treatment. So as a beginner, it's always better to be wider with your disbursements. So wider and just be cautious and wary of how much time you can concentrate for. Don't overcommit yourself to a super dense. Another thing to take into account is considering what the front's going to look like. Now, as a beginner, you're always doing wide disbursement, like I said, but at the front, you want to really leave yourself enough time to do it, pack it in as dense as possible that you can, because you want the front to look the best when you're leaving. Now, if you've got really, really wide dots at the back, no one's really going to be seeing that. So yeah, at the front, just being wary and cautious of that in your mind, is that what is that going to look like when that person leaves? Because that needs to be looking the best. All right, now I'm going to show you some dot patterns. All right, so here's the first dot pattern. I don't really know what to call this, so I'm just going to call it the WCC, wide, closer, closer. So for your first session, you're going to be doing a wide disbursement of dots. In the second session, you're going to be going a little bit closer. The third, you're going to be going a little bit closer again. Then on the fourth, you're going to be going closer again, fifth, closer again, until you achieve the density that you're looking to achieve. Now, the disbursement of the dots is the pattern is, I'm going to call it messy, because it's sort of not here nor there. It's not straight, it's not circular, it's not following in lines, it's just messy all over the shot. Now, the reason why I like this pattern is because if you have a look at this third one, I've sort of left out a part of it where I haven't dotted as close. And if you can look at that, this section here needs a bit more for this one to look completely even. Now, the reason that I've left that there and the reason that I like this pattern is because it gets you from the very start. So I would say doing this style up to your first 10 treatments would be awesome, because it gets you looking at the overall picture of the dots and then adding to that. Because I think with SMP, you want to constantly be looking back. So, and then how I would disperse them is I wouldn't be going in between each dot. It'd literally be wide. See, even on this third one, I'm still wide. And you want to, as you go, get this as close and as dense as you possibly can. And just realize that density comes with practice and time. You're not going to get crazy density straight away, but you want to do it as dense as your eye will let it. Another reason why I really, really like this one is because of time. There is at any point, almost in this session, you can leave it. And as long as the front is looking good. See, another reason why, doing really, really close density. So if I'm to do a really close density, and as you can imagine, this little section, and I go, fuck, in my head I'm checking out, and I'm feeling tired. I've still got all this left to go. Or say you get halfway, then you got to finish that in a state of mind where, you're feeling tired or fatigued. Whereas with this one, if you just keep on packing it a little bit denser, you can almost call it at any stage, as long as the front is looking good. So yeah, another reason why I think this is an awesome one for beginners. And so as you see me dotting away, I think this is another reason why I just keep on giving reasons why this is the best one for an absolute beginner, is because you're doing individual dots that are spaced out still, even in the third session. Because what I find is when you try and pack density as a beginner, you go too close to another dot and you hit it, or you go a little bit too deep, and then you sort of get that blotchiness. Whereas with this, it's just coming together over time. Yeah, so for complete beginners, this is my absolute favorite. And once again, I don't have all the answers, but this is really what I recommend. And this one really helps me in my first 10 treatments. I changed to this, maybe about 5 in, and it was the best density I think I ever did at that point. All right, so the second one I'm going to be talking about, and I'm just giving these random names, is dense, denser, and denser again. So I'm going to call this the triple D. So basically you're doing the messy pattern again, but except for you're going as dense as you possibly can on every single session. Now the big thing to consider here is time, because how dense you're going there, you got to make sure that you've still got maximum concentration when you're all the way at the front, or you're getting all the way through the head. And you've got to think about that on your second session and on your third session. But with these sessions, I'm literally going as close as I possibly can without touching, and just as dense as I possibly can, getting denser and denser. So I would definitely, I would put this as intermediate. I don't really know, but you'd want to have at least 15 to 20 treatments up your sleeve, because you really want to have that needle control that you can get through a full one of these. And you want to make sure that you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You don't want to be flailing out towards the midsection, because as you can imagine on a second session with how dense that is, if I'm here and this is sort of like the first session is, it's literally going to look like yin and yang. So yeah, keep that in mind with time. Don't over commit to a dense session. Realize that you've got heaps of sessions, and with this one I'd probably say four sessions I would do, because at that point I can't get any more dense. And yeah, this is the triple D. So this next dot pattern that I'm going to be talking about is literally, it's basically the same as what I did before, but I'm calling this the triple D plus. So the dense, denser, and then the dancer. Now I'm going to explain what dancer means in a second. With this one, honestly, I think I've done 50 plus treatments, but I'd say at about 40, and this is a pretty advanced way of looking at things. I'm not calling myself advanced, this is tough to do. So on the first session, you're going as dense as you possibly can, you're going denser again, and then on the third session, you're almost at that point where you can't go any more dense. So this is why I'm calling it the dancer, because you almost want to dance on top of the dots that are lighter than the other dots, that aren't as dark, and you want it to pop. So like you want to be like literally just tapping the lighter ones to make them pop a little bit more. Sometimes you could even use a little bit of a lighter ink, but yeah, you're literally dancing over the whole head, just make it pop and really look nice. Like I said, this one's very tough to do because it's your needle control, because it's also very dangerous, because if you don't have that really good needle control, you're going to go a little bit too deep on one, then you've got a dark dot, and you don't want one of those. So yeah, this is very hard to do. This is sort of where I'm at. This is just to try and take it to that next level and make sure that all those dots are popping. So yeah, the Triple D Plus. Yeah, take time into consideration with this one because you've got to be so dense those first couple of sessions. But yeah, once again, 3 to 4 sessions, as many as you need. All right. Now, there's also dot patterns that you can do within those dot patterns or those processes that I just explained, those 3. So there's the straight line treatment. So you can go just up and back with a straight line, and then when you're doing your density with that, you're just filling in between the lines. Then you got circles where you're just doing circling out around the head, and then doing density with that is just following that pattern. And then obviously there's the messy version, which is just sporadic dots everywhere, and then you're doing the same sort of sporadic look in and around them. Now, I haven't tried these two before, but the lines is the next one that I'm going to be trying, and I definitely will be trying the circles too. I just want to keep on improving. All right. Now, with how many sessions you do, some people teach 2, some people teach 3, some people teach 4. Me personally, I think 3 to 4 is a pretty good sweet spot, but I don't put a cap on that. You know, I do as many sessions until it looks right. So when you're doing your dots and on a first session or a second, don't put any pressure on yourself to have it finished at any particular stage. This is a very serious treatment for your client, and you want to take as much time as you can. So yeah, 3 sessions, 4 sessions, 5, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, as you get better and you're doing this full time, you need to make sure that you're obviously being paid for your time, but when you're starting, honestly, just as many and until it looks good. All right. And with the denser, that's gonna come with time. You know, you're going to find that your eyes are going to find more spaces to fill with dots the more treatments that you do. Your density in your first 10 or 20 is going to look different to your 20 to 30. It all comes with time. And don't jump ahead and just try and whack into this density just because I've put it here. Really, really master that first one down pat to the point where you're sort of doing density anyway. And then the Triple D Plus, the dancer, really just wait until you've done a lot of treatments before you try that one. I'm just trying that one myself, and it's tough because when you're tapping over the top of other dots, you've got to have perfect needle control. But yeah, those are the 3 that I'm trying at the moment. The straight line and the circle I'm going to be trying. That's another one that I've just found out about. But for now, I've always done that messy sort of treatment. And you know, if you're getting trained by someone or you've been shown a certain way, just be open-minded to change and different ways of doing things. It doesn't mean that the different way is going to be better or worse, but if it's going to be better, I mean, it's better that we all grow together and the SMP keeps on improving, because then we're all going to have more work. And yeah, it's just going to be prosperous for all of us. But being stuck in that there is only one way of doing things is the best way to not improve. And that's all that I want, is all of us to improve together. Rightio guys, I hope that was helpful. There's plenty of other disbursement dot patterns that I can delve into, but I thought as I was going, I don't want to make this video long-winded. I just want to compact it to exactly what I found worked the absolute best for me. Obviously, I tried other different ways of doing it when I first started, but then when I came across the one that I called the WCC, so the wide, closer and closer, and the reason I just cannot express this enough, I think this is the best when you're starting out, because you're not compacting dots. You're just you're going wide around the entire head. So at any point, it's not going to look weird if you stopped and you ran out of fuel in your tank. And it also gets you looking and peeking at the head and making it even as it goes, because when you're doing these density treatments and they come back, you have to look at them in different lightings and from different angles so that everything looks consistent on the head. But yeah, so those are the 3 that I recommend. Obviously, if you guys think that there's a better way of doing it, send me a message. I'm always open to learning. Not disregarding any other way that someone else uses to get their results. But you just remember, just go as dense as you can go. Just be self-aware to your own capabilities. I know that it's hard looking at other artists and how dense they're going and how fast they are with the needle, but it just takes time. I still look at guys and think, holy shit, I just can't even fathom how they do that. But I know that I'm in my process and I'm going to get there. Yeah, the first sessions are always hard. It took me, doing a wide disbursement took me like 6 hours, 7 hours, like it took me forever, but over time you get faster. And with this as well, I understand that there's needles that needed to be spoken about, ink strengths need to be spoken about, but that is something that I'm going to be addressing in other videos because there's going to be many more. Alright guys, I hope that that helps. So if you're a beginner and doing that first dot pattern, good luck. Just don't overcommit yourself to the density and just take your time. Take your time and really, really take care in your work. 5 sessions, 6 sessions, 7 sessions, it doesn't matter as long as the end product looks good. Alright guys, that's all from me. Thank you very much. Cheers. And with this as well, I understand that there's needles that needed to be spoken about, ink strengths need to be spoken about, but that is something that I'm going to be addressing in other videos because there's going to be many more. Alright guys, I hope that that helps. So if you're a beginner and doing that first dot pattern, good luck. Just don't overcommit yourself to the density and just take your time. Take your time and really, really take care in your work. 5 sessions, 6 sessions, 7 sessions, it doesn't matter as long as the end product looks good. Alright guys, that's all from me. Thank you very much. Cheers.